Keep going. Hey, everybody, it's good to see you, goddesses. I'm excited to connect this week because this week we are talking about the goddess Tanit, who is the goddess of pleasure. Yes to pleasure goals, yes to celebrating pleasure, pleasure principle, pleasure practices. So, we're going to be talking about all things pleasure today. But before we jump into that, we'll do our check a yes to the waterworks and the squirting emojis. So let's get into just a check-in real quick. How are you guys doing this week? How have you practiced pleasure this week? What's happening in your lives?
I'll go. We were supposed to start about 45 minutes ago, but we paused because my daughter got hooded. So that's what's fresh on my mind is her finishing up school. So I'm super excited about that. And that's been beautiful to see her grow and bloom. For myself, growing and blooming, and my sensual goals this week has been focused around just relaxing. So this past weekend, I took some time to just be. And that was really lovely. Mother's Day was on Sunday, and the kids were like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want you to leave me alone." And so I just spent the day doing what I wanted to do. I painted, I organized, and just did things that brought me joy in my day. So that's been nice.
I love that. Happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Good
have
to
doing well. So last week I was traveling for work. I was in Chicago for two back-to-back meetings. So I flew into Chicago and instead of flying home, I took the train back home. So it was a deliciously long, over 50-hour train ride. And it was a great time. I'll say the beginning of it was kind of boring that Chicago to Denver, middle America was just like flat plains and cows and a couple horses and a couple deer and not much for scenery. But I listened to the audiobook Pleasure Activism during that time and did a lot of reflecting and a lot of journaling that tied into what we're getting into this week. And then that Denver to Sacramento part was just like beautiful mountains and rivers and lakes and canyons. And so the scenery was really beautiful. I enjoyed just like being alone and not having to talk to anybody, and being able to just like journal and reflect and connect to myself and do some deeper diving and thinking about some of these pleasure goals. So it was really good. And then this week so far coming back, has been a pretty smooth transition. I've been because I was able to get some rest. My brain is also rested, so I've been able to get some good writing done this week. And then I had scheduled some things in advance that I kind of almost forgot about. So I'm going to a concert tonight when we are done recording this. I'm going to another concert tomorrow night. And then Friday, I'm heading to the Bay Area. And then I'm going to be doing a retreat on Saturday on for healers, healing the healer. So I'm looking forward to that. And I get to do that before I jump back into my shifts on Sunday. So I'm doing lots of things to help me just take care of myself and nurture myself and lean into some of my pleasure principles this week as well.
pleasure principles. This has been a good week for me as well. I went to Boston over the weekend. I have a friend from college whose son graduated from college. And so I went to support her. I took my fourth one with me. And so we didn't actually go to the graduation, but we went to like the celebratory dinner after. So during the graduation, I took the fourth one going to the aquarium. And I took pleasure in the pleasure that my fourth born took in going to the aquarium and like still getting excited about like the jellyfish and like giving little commentaries on like there were these clownfish and it was like two of them. And they're like, oh, there's one. And they're like, oh, it's two of them. And then they did the thing from Sinners, y'all twins? Nah, we cousins. So like the voiceover for the video was hilarious. So that was good times. And then, yes, we just had a good time, with a college friend and the fourth born in Boston. And then we got back on Monday. And then this week I've been getting back into my writing, doing some Substack essays. And so it has given me a lot of joy and pleasure to like pair my posts with like Tony Braxton's He Wasn't Man Enough for Me.
I have taken joy in the petty Solange younger sister in me has also taken joy in that.
I was like, this song is so perfect. So I've enjoyed doing some writing around that and doing my social media posts related to that. And then just all the like reflected on all the pleasure that has filled my life post divorce in my happily unmarried, delightfully divorced journey. So that has been very pleasurable for me. And so I did post earlier today just reflecting on, so again, our goddess this week is Tanit, who's the goddess of pleasure. And so I did a social media post today, just like inquiring, like, what are your pleasure practices? What are some things that give you pleasure? And so I was reflecting on some of that. But let's get a little bit more into the goddess, and then we can just talk about it and unpack it a little more. So Tanit, the goddess of pleasure, the region or the country is Tunisia. She has sacred erotic. She gives a sacred erotic magical ritual, and the kind of phrase associated with her is "It feels good to feel good." This has come up before because we've pulled this card at least once before. So I love that it feels good to feel good. I love the idea they talked about this ritual of full moon dance parties at midnight where people are like dancing on the tables. And I'm like, I need to start hosting full moon dance parties. Like, this is something that I need in my life. So I love that. I also love the combination of pleasure and protection for this goddess because I think for some of us, there's fear that comes up around pleasure. And so the idea that there is both pleasure and protection really resonated for me. Does anybody want to jump in there about that pleasure protection connection?
I feel like you're looking at me, so so that definitely resonated with me, and I think we probably have talked about this on the podcast, but have certainly talked about it among each other, and some of like my core wounds, and limited beliefs that I'm trying to release around like pleasure being associated with pain, particularly erotic pleasure, as well as just kind of transgenerational trauma and harm against women in our families, and so. I did love that she is, as we're inviting in the pleasure, we also invite in the protection to keep us safe as we engage in our pleasure practices, as well as prosperity. So I definitely connected with that. And we just had a full moon. And so I did do some talking to the moon around my pleasure stuff. And I did do a little full moon dance party as well around this. And then even last night when I was writing, I was up until maybe about 2 in the morning doing some writing. But I usually have music playing when I'm writing. And so anytime a song came on that moved me, I would just like get up and stop and dance. And so I think that is because Tanit was helping to invite some of that joyful energy to me in some late night dance parties. And then when I got into bed, it was probably around 2:30, and the moon was like literally right outside of my window when I got into bed. And I was like, hey girl, how's it going? So yeah, so it's all been speaking to me this week.
I love it. How about you, Ebony?
I love a good dance party. I yes, last week full moon that same. I was like, oh, this is right on time. And so I dance around my house quite a bit. I think everybody in the house be sick of me sometimes because where them fans at has been I've been popping fans on people and
Learn the line. It's the twists and the turns for me. I'm such an auntie. I
oh,
can't.
let me tell you, when I say where them fans out, all I know is the pop, 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 pop. That's it. I don't know the moves. I just dance around and flick my fan, honey.
That little girl on social media doing that, but she knows all the moves. But I just know how to pop my hip and pop the fan. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's all I need. That's all I need is to pop the hip and pop the fan. But yeah, I definitely have had some good times connecting with my dancing, late night dancing, all day dancing, honestly, morning dancing. I like the movement, but with the protection and sensuality, I definitely have. I had sexual trauma as a child, and so one of the things I appreciate is one therapy, which I was put in right away when I was a child, but also what my mother really instilled, which is around how important my pleasure was, despite the trauma that I experienced, which she was aware of, and kind of leading me through what does my sensuality look like, and what does it look like to be in pleasure with myself. And so I've always had a really healthy sense of being able to please not just myself, but also what does it look like to please a partner, and have conversations with my own children around that. And so it's been good to just reconnect with the pleasure principles that Tanit all has been emphasizing around making sure that we also recognize that there's a part of it that kicks against the patriarchal order. I think that was what something around there that was said in the book, and I was like, yes, because when we know what pleases us and we can be clear about it, I think the other piece is being clear about it and being able to communicate it with someone else. It shifts the dynamics in relationships and in spaces, because we don't accept less.
Definitely. I love this reflection on your mother and how she empowered you around your sensuality and sexuality, and your body and your pleasure, because I think so often we hear the opposite story about that, where like the sensuality and sexuality is suppressed or it's just not talked about. So I love that you have like a counter narrative and a counter example to that, in terms of the family dynamic. And yes, to therapy. So shout out to the therapists out there and the mental health workers, who do this, and then the mothers and the other parents who support us in this. I definitely also love the pleasure and protection connection. And for me, it was my therapist who helped me see that I had a negative correlation between like pleasure and not so much pain, but pleasure and punishment, right? Like being raised in a church, like, crucify the flesh, stay in the spirit, all of this kind of stuff. The wages of sin are death, and it's better to marry to burn, and all this other kind of stuff. And so I still was imagining like some punishing being that was going to like sweep in and harm me if I experienced pleasure. And so my therapist really helped me to like reflect on when I've actually been leading with pleasure, or allowing the pleasure principle to lead me, or experiencing pleasure. I haven't actually experienced pain with pleasure. I haven't actually experienced punishment with pleasure. I've experienced pain and punishment when I pushed down or suppressed or neglected my pleasure, but not when I've embraced the pleasure. And so it was just really helpful to see that I had this correlation that did not align with my actual experience. It just aligned with like a teaching that I had internalized and I needed to like deprogram from. So that was very powerful and transformative for me to like lean into my pleasure in similar ways that I lean into like intuition, right? Like Audrey Lorde has this saying, in what I call like embodied epistemology and emotional epistemology, like the knowledge we get from like being connected to our body and being connected to our feelings. And she's like, there's power in the phrase, it feels right, or it feels good. And I think, again, we're just so socialized to distrust what feels right and feels good instead of like embracing what feels right and feels good. And then, but when something doesn't feel good, it's like we think we don't actually pay attention to that, right? And so anyway, so I like this, again, this connection with pleasure and protection. Of course, we still have motherhood showing up again. In my notes, I literally have sigh in parentheses. But motherhood is an ongoing theme with the goddesses that I am continuing to work through. I've been doing a lot of writing about that, which also has been actually very helpful and therapeutic, and just kind of processing and naming what comes up for me with mothering. So that's been helpful. She's associated also with fertility, which I think is not just childbirth, but again, creativity, birthing things into the world, birthing ideas are practices and things in the world. We've already talked about the dance and the dance parties, and then also prosperity. So connecting pleasure and prosperity. There's also an association of making dreams come true. So I love that. I think we've talked before about like just getting into that dream space and dreaming, and those like big, hairy, audacious goals and all of those things. Those have been consistent themes across several of the goddesses. And also just this description of pleasure, again, as a creative force. I love what she does, where she says a life without pleasure is not worth living, which I saw as a nod to like the philosophical claim. An unexamined life is not worth living. And so she's like reclaiming that for like a life without pleasure is not worth living. So I love that. So let's transition a little bit to the discussion of the womb and what came up for you guys concerning the womb. And actually, one of the recent videos that we posted, we were talking a lot about the womb as well. So mothering has come up a lot, but the womb has also come up a lot. And so she talks about womb wellness and womb alchemy. But did anybody have any particular thoughts or things that came up around the discussion of the womb this week?
I'll say when I was reading this, I kind of must have just glossed over the discussion of the womb. So
Not me checking my notes, like, do I have a note on the womb?
I don't remember much coming up around the womb. I will say, this weekend, because it was Mother's Day, I was doing some reflecting on, just a period of my life where I was mourning the life that I thought I was going to have that I'm not living. And it's when it comes to fertility and my hysterectomy in the womb from that standpoint. But when I was reading this chapter, the womb was not something that I took any notes on. So
Well,
maybe that's a sign that is something that I've worked through that and I'm like, oh, that's not an issue for me. I don't know.
mhm.
But yeah, the womb didn't come up for me for when it.
Okay. Well, again, we've talked about the womb before. It comes up. So again, for people who might be watching for the first time, we're doing the African Goddess Initiation. This is the book that we're talking about. The goddess we're talking about this week is Tanit. And so the discussion around the womb is on page 106 in the gray block where it says, "Let's talk pleasure." And so she talks about this woman that she knows that's in her community who's an Oshun priestess and a womb wellness practitioner. She helps her sister clients find feminine wholeness through sensual energy, sacred sexuality, and womb alchemy, also yoni divination, pelvic bowl practices, and other spiritual clearing. So that's what she talks about the womb.
Yeah, when
But
we got to that gray, I was all in on the sex magic. I wasn't.
yes.
I was like, F that womb. Let's talk about sex magic. So,
Hmm.
oh, I
Okay.
yeah. So I was thinking about that, but yeah, the womb actually didn't come up for me. What about you, Eb?
Yeah, it didn't come up for me either. I'm glad you said 106 in the gray area because I that's exactly my same thoughts was when I was looking through when I was the gray area really stood out to me only because about the feeling good is holy and the pleasure being such a healing force. And I
Hmm.
think those where that's where I was and then that it threatens the patriarchal order.
Hmm. Hmm.
The womb didn't come up. So it came up for you,
Okay.
Dr. K or
Well,
Professor K.
I was still just looking at because we talked about one before, and I think
Yeah.
maybe when I was rereading this, I had just rewatched the video that I just posted where we were talking about womb stuff. So I think that's why it stood out to me. But yes, to solo sex magic. She also talked about womb breathing, and this description of pleasure as a healing force. That's what else came up in the Let's Talk Pleasure, like the gray box there. And then again, I was just talking about like being guided by our pleasure. I think a lot of times there's this idea that we can't be pleasure focused or we can't trust our pleasure. And once I kind of again peel back the layers of my own association of pleasure with punishment, then I was able to see like, oh, actually my pleasure has never steered me wrong, like in a similar way that my intuition hasn't.
Yeah,
Um,
interestingly enough, though, even Tiff, as you were having your reflections from Mother's Day, and like this being them saying pleasure can be a healing force, and the healing happening through the womb. The person Goddess Antoinette was speaking about overcoming the birth and passing of a child, and so even as you did your reflections, there are some parallels around like that womb being a healing force, even if you felt like at times it's betrayed you or didn't meet our expectations. I think there's still something there that, holds truth around that healing practice.
Yeah, I was definitely doing some reflections on one of my journal prompts was like what would it look like to feel safe in my body again? And so
Hmm.
doing that, I was thinking about the womb betraying me and the other ways in which my body betrayed me. And by the time I got to the end of that reflection, this was all, when I was like on this 50-hour train ride. So by the time I got to the end of that question, I came to the realization that my body never betrayed me, right? I
Yeah.
betrayed my body by like not listening to my body, by like becoming less embodied and turning off the switch to being able to feel the triggers for my body and what my body needs. So I've betrayed my body. And even when it comes to my womb, I was looking at it in terms of like it literally like draining the life out of me through like those like terrible periods and all the blood loss and all the anemia, as well as the pain that it caused. But by the end of the reflection, I was able to get to my womb wasn't betraying me, and my womb wasn't harming my body. My womb was the warrior that was like taking on all of this trauma from the outside world and holding that trauma for me, right? So when you look at the literature on fibroids and women, Black women are at least threefold times more likely to have fibroids, to have complications from those fibroids. And some of the risk factors that are associated with it are experiences of racism and anger squelching and all of those other things. And so I was finally able to get to transform that narrative of a previous narrative of my body has betrayed me to actually my womb was a warrior that was really holding space for me and holding on to all of these things so that it didn't have to go to my heart and cause heart disease, and it didn't have to go to my metabolic system and cause diabetes. And a good calling that, like, okay, that womb took all the trauma that she could, and she is gone now, right? So what are you going to do to begin living a life that is different and to invite pleasure in, to be able to combat some of these things that your womb was holding on to for you? So I was glad that I was able to do that reframe, but that was outside of the context of this goddess, but it all comes together.
It does. And the post you did was really powerful too, just in regards to the reflections you shared. I think there's so many people that need that message and can heal through your vulnerability in words.
I'm going to pause for the cause and invite the people who are watching. If this resonates for you or if things are coming up for you as we're talking through this, don't forget to leave us a comment or leave us a question and tell us what's coming up for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this with somebody who you think would benefit from it. Okay, so what you just said, Tiff, made me think about this question that's asked on the bottom of that page. How can you make more room for pleasure? So was that something that you guys also reflected on, and did you come up with any answers for that?
I was definitely reflecting on how to make more room for pleasure, but even going back before, at the very beginning of this chapter, and it starts off with Tanit's message, and the second line of that is, I dream of you healed, happy, and whole. So I was actually doing a lot of reflecting on that. And so what, like, doing some visioning and some future forecasting of what does the future me look like, who is healed and happy and whole, and how is pleasure a portal for me to be able to enter into that space when I'm healed, happy, and whole. So those are some of the things that I was reflecting on. And I'll be doing all these long journaling and prompts on it, but but did a lot of reflecting on that, and thinking about how pleasure can be a portal to be able to activate those things.
Yeah, I was really thinking about that this past couple of weeks, particularly because I'm a checklist girl. I like making lists at the beginning of the day and checking all of it off. Not all of it. Sometimes I make it for the week, but and so I realized I'm not at one point when I go through my journal, because I keep one going until it's filled and then move to the next one. I at one point I was actually not scheduling in, but writing in like, and hold, time to just read for pleasure today, not just for, learning, or take time to paint your walls or whatever it is that just brings me joy, get outside and garden. And so over this past week I did that, like, whole time to celebrate these things that you've done over this past 3 months, and also make sure you're reading for pleasure. And so I'm doing that and then checking it off. 'Cause- and then also, like today, one of my items on my list was go through the month of June and block times and days off just for you. And so that's just me just trying to be more intentional around looking ahead at the beginning of the next month already. Because if I start in June looking for days that I'm going to take off, my scheduler will have already booked me out. And so it's nice to uh, be able to look ahead and be like, no, the no, it's a no, because I'm saying yes to me. So that's been what my focus has been.
The planning ahead is real because, like I said, I had all this stuff planned for this week that I kind of forgot was planned. And so I'm like, okay, my past self was looking out for my future self and getting some of these things scheduled that do bring me some joy and pleasure. So future casting and planning far ahead the way we do for other things in our lives and our work and putting it on our calendars is really important so that we preserve some time for things that bring us joy and bring us pleasure and not just fill it with things that are in service of others is really
Exactly. Yep. And that's been the biggest part for me is because I realized this is one of the first years that I'm having to fit a lot of my personal and fun things around my schedule. Usually I do plan out a little more, and it just feels like this has been a whoosh. And then I'm looking and I'm like, where am I gonna go do this? Oh, I gotta play Tetris and I don't want to do that. So I not only did I look ahead for June, but I also told myself like, hey everybody, what we got going on? Like, okay, we're going to Greece in 2026. Let's nail those dates down now. Okay, we're going here, let's nail those dates down now. So that way I can fit work around my fun because yeah, I'm not doing that. This last 4 or 5 months, we're not gonna keep doing it. So it's been nice to be able to really think ahead too.
I do want us each to spend a little bit of time talking about some of those pleasure goals that we listed because I know for me it was work to think through them. And so it might be helpful to some of our listeners to have some suggestions for things that can be pleasurable. And one of the things for me that I was struggling a little bit with was like how do I distinguish between as I was thinking about things that I enjoy doing, I was like, is this pleasure? Is this fun? Is this enjoyment? Is this entertainment? And kind of how to distinguish between those different things. So, did you guys have a similar experience, or Professor K is the professor of pleasure? So, how did that work for you as you were thinking through like a pleasure goal versus a fun goal or an entertaining goal?
Yeah, so I think don't overthink it, right? Like if it feels good, it's pleasurable. Like by the time you're like, which box does this fit into? It kind of takes the pleasure out of it. I will say for me, like I used to have a journal that literally had a fun box on it. So it was like a wheel of life. And it was like I would consistently check off all the boxes except for the fun box. And so I think I tend to have a pleasure centered life actually. Like I take pleasure in like what I do out of a sense of pleasure. And I happen to also like get compensated for it and other kinds of things. So I don't necessarily overthink that pleasure thing, but I think mentally separate like it's not that pleasure and fun are mutually exclusive to me, but like I don't think fun is as central in my life as pleasure is in my life. So one of the first people that I dated after divorce was like I used to call him my fun coach because he was a very fun kind of person. And so like I remember for Halloween that year, he was like, "Oh, what are you doing with the kids for Halloween?" And I think like the older kids were taking the younger kids or something. So I was not gonna like walk them around to get the candy or whatever. And so he was like, "Well, what are you dressing up as?" And I was like, "I have not dressed up for Halloween since I was like in middle school or elementary school." And he was like, "You should dress up." And so I'm like, "Okay, you're my finance consultant. What should I dress up with as?" And so he said, "Well, you should dress as Wonder Woman because you're a super sexy Wonder Woman." So I dressed up as Wonder Woman that year, and I had so much fun dressing up and handing out candy. And then when the little black girls came to the house to like get the candy, like they was just like, oh my goodness, like seeing a black Wonder Woman. So it was like a lot of fun and I got pleasure out of it. But so for me, the fun box is harder to check off than the pleasure box. But I don't think we have to like have strict, rigid lines between them.
You should post your Wonder Woman pictures tomorrow for their Throwback Thursday because you are very
I will be happy to post my Wonder Woman pictures.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I definitely did not overthink it either. Although I do see now when you're saying that fun, because I would consider dressing up as fun, but then seeing the pleasure of the kids and the kids getting like, I had a lot of fun dancing with my daughter for a Black Women's March. But the pleasure was in the little girls being like, "You guys are amazing," and that was the best part of it. So, but yeah, I just really thought about because I don't know, my partner likes to have a lot of fun and do fun things, but they don't always bring me pleasure. So when I was thinking about the pleasure, I was thinking about things that are just for me and that bring me like that quiet the noise. Sometimes it's not necessarily just for me. Sometimes it is hanging with Tiffany, listening to live music, like that brings me pleasure. So I just really just tried to focus on like sleeping in and having coffee in bed and reading, or sometimes it's binge watching a show with my son, and like, so just I just was just trying to think of all of the different little ways that pleasure comes into my life. Sometimes requires effort, but usually it feels effortless.
I like this. I like the invitation to reflect on some examples of it. And so I actually, when I did the post this morning related to this guidance, I gave a list of like things, some of the things that give me pleasure. But I would also invite people who are listening to like, okay, it's great to have ideas, but don't take our ideas of like, this is a new list that now you have to check off the box of like, okay, this is what they said is pleasure. So this is what I'm going to do for pleasure. Like, I think it really does have to be an internally generated thing, or even a trial and error of like, let me try different things and see what feels good to me, instead of feeling like you have to do something that somebody else told you to do because it's pleasurable. Because something that's pleasurable for me may be very different than something that's pleasurable for somebody else, and vice versa, right? And so I'm thinking about two examples, like it really does give me joy and pleasure to read and write and think. Like that's my happy space. I'm a sapiosexual. Like I get turned on by ideas. I'm talking about ideas. Like that gives me pleasure.
But
But for other people,
did not read books.
and I didn't read books when I was a kid, but Queenie BB used to
No, your
bribe me
fun
with
coach.
books.
Remember your fun coach?
Oh
Remember?
yeah, and that's why it didn't work. That's true.
Why didn't it work?
So he told me, and at the time I was still a professor. So here's the story. The fun coach, so anyway, he served his purpose. But he was in Memphis. I went to Memphis. He flew me out to Memphis to have a weekend together, or a week. I was actually there for a week because it was like Thanksgiving break. And so the kids were with their dad and I went to Memphis. And he was talking about going to a strip club. And this was like, I was not as liberated then as I was now. So I was still looking at like the strip club is like this space that objectifies women and all this kind of stuff. This was before like I knew sex workers and strippers who were like, I feel very empowered and this is my
I
ministry,
love
right?
strip club. Love strip clubs.
So my thing was I had written this article in this book, well, it's a chapter actually in a book called Hip Hop and Philosophy on like sexual objectification and all this kind of stuff. So I said, okay, well, if you read this chapter, which was short and written for a popular audience, it was not like a dense philosophical piece, right? Like it's in a book called Hip Hop and Philosophy. So it was written for a popular audience. I'm like, if you read this and report back, then we could go to the strip club together. And he was like, yeah, I don't really read books like that. And I was like, pearls
That's my
clutched?
Pearls.
Like, did you just say out loud that you do not read books to a professor who writes books? And so my coochie dried up. I was like, now, having said that, one of my faves out there, Jet Set and Jasmine, she and King Noir have royal fetish films, so they do all the things. I love them dearly. She was recently in a film. They were both in a film. I think it's called Olivia. And so she has a character in the film where the character is, she's the protagonist. She's a writer in the film. And so she has, like, she's, I think, maybe in her 40s. And then, like, there are three lovers, like somebody in their 30s, somebody in their 40s, and somebody in their 50s. And so, like, I think it's the young guy in his 30s who's like, oh, you write books? I don't really read books like that. And so, like, she posted the clip from it, and I was like, girl, this drives me up. And so she was like, listen, everybody can't check off all the boxes. It's just, can he eat the box? Can he work the box? Like, you got to choose your spots. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to reassess this. But yeah, I'm like, if you don't read books, don't tell me you don't read books. Like, keep that to yourself because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. So yeah, so that's what happens with the Memphis person. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
He tried it
Um,
right on up.
I was like, Lasai. So
Damn, damn,
he was good
damn.
for other things though. He was somebody who was good for consent, right? Like, so he's somebody who like we went on like a triple date actually because I met him. I was at a conference in Memphis, like literally right after my divorce was finalized. And I was asking him about like live music and stuff going on. And so he was like, oh, I'm happy to show you around or take you out. Like, let me give you my number. So we exchanged numbers. And so he took me out to like dinner because it was like, yes, feed me first. And then we went to like a comedy club and then we went to like a lounge or something like that. And then we walked on the boardwalk by the Mississippi River. And so we like kind of paused and like my back is like against the banister of the river. And so he looks at me and he says, is it okay if I kiss you? And this was the first time in my life anybody had asked permission to kiss me. And I was like, yes. So he kissed me. He was a really good kisser. This is also on my list of things that give me pleasure, like passionate kisses. Like if the kiss doesn't work, like it's not going anywhere else. for me. So like we had this wonderful kiss and then he pauses and he checks in and he's like, are you still good? Are we still okay? Like, so he asked for consent and then he checked back in like a second time for consent. And it was like a gift from the universe that I needed, that I didn't know I needed until I received it. So I always have gratitude to him for that. And we talked about it later and he was just like, I recognize that you didn't really know me that well. You're out at night alone. We're on a boardwalk. And, I just wanted to make sure that you were good and that you felt safe and you felt comfortable. So that was the good. So he doesn't read books, but he gets consent. If you had to choose between the two, I think consent maybe is more important, but I'm a both and kind of person. So I like to have both.
Shout out to consent. I just was watching. I don't know if y'all seen Forever on
I
Netflix
haven't
yet.
seen it yet, but I want to watch
Okay.
it.
Spoilers.
Okay. I won't do any spoil. I mean, it's not a spoiler in the sense that it's going to spoil the premise or anything like that. But I'm watching it with my son because it's a Black teenage love story. I don't know where it goes. I'm not done with it. But there is a scene where there's some level of intimacy, and he says, "Is this okay? Are you good?" And then they get to the next stage, and they were already really in it. And then he asked again, and so I turned to my son. I was like, "Do you hear that? You hear how nice that sounds?" You ask them questions. You make sure you ask them questions every step of the way. But I love a good consent. It is super sexy
Yes, consent is sexy and necessary.
Uh,
and necessary. Yes, both.
Sexy and necessary. And here's to just popular culture helping to tell those
Yes.
stories that consent doesn't have to be like clunky and awkward, and it doesn't have to ruin the moment. It can actually make the moment.
Enhance it.
Exactly. And that was exactly what I saw. It's like the way they did it. It was super simple, but it sent a very strong message around how important it is. And so I appreciated that. And the shout out to the cute black babies on screen and the parents as well. Once y'all see it, we'll have to debrief. But I loved the kids and the parents so far. It's been great.
We were just
I
talking about it the other day that we need to watch it, and we might need to do a special Goddess Glow
I
talking.
was literally about to say yes. I would be
Hmm.
down with doing a Goddess Glow debrief on Forever because all my timeline is saying all the things about how fabulous it is. So I look forward to watching that. Okay, so then the other thing I was going to say, oh, getting back to like the examples of pleasure. So I'll give my other examples of pleasure for me. But the other thing I was going to say in terms of like, figuring out what that looks like for you. So I went to a kink event one time also where like I tend to like, I like my breasts to be like massaged and kissed and sucked, but I don't like heavy biting or heavy whatever on them, right? It may be a thing from having nursed 4 kids. I don't know what the association
Same.
is there,
Had your
but
breast.
Same.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
need you to take good care of them. I don't
Thank
need.
you. Be gentle.
So I like flogging like on my butt, but so anyway, there was a woman there who wanted her breast to be flogged, and I was like, yeah, I think that's a no for me. But when I tell you, she was like almost orgasmic from her breast being flogged, and so I was like, maybe it should be a maybe. Like, let me try it out. So then I tried it, and then like 5 seconds, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Like I saw like, but it was like I saw it how much it pleasured her, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm missing something. It was like, nah, girl, you're not about that life on the flogging of the breast is not a thing for you. So I say that to say, we'll share our pleasure practices and what feels good for us, and then, figure out what your yeses, your nos, and your maybes are. So for me, in terms of the post that I just did earlier on Instagram, some experiences that give me pleasure, orgasms, self-pleasure. I love the solo sex magic. Again, that's mentioned in this chapter, passionate kisses, which I just mentioned, gentle caresses, body to body, like skin to skin connection. I really love like cuddling, intellectual stimulation, again, sapiosexual energy, reading, writing, and speaking are pleasure practices for me. When I say this to other people, they're like, you're stuck in your work. And I'm like, no, I know it gives me pleasure. Those things give me pleasure. Being in beloved community is pleasure for me. Good food. These are not in order because food would be above some of these other things. Good food gives me pleasure. Cafe life gives me pleasure, like a good latte, but also just the whole scene of like, especially if it's like a bookstore, coffee shop combination, like nature gives me
Yes.
pleasure. Yes, I know. It's
I
so,
love a bookstore. Let them have some smoothies, coffee, and books.
look, and some
I'm in
acai
heaven.
bowls or
Yes,
something.
don't do that to
I'm
me.
like, can you add
I'm
brunch to
actually
that?
about to
Can you add
orgasm
brunch to
now.
that? Yeah.
And they're vegan because that was last week when I was in Los Angeles. I went to a coffee shop, thought it was just a regular coffee shop. It said Vegan Oasis with a sticker on the front. I walked in, they had smoothies, fresh juices, everybody was chilling, and the vegan menu was fire. I just
Oh my
give me all my
goodness.
money. I'm going to spend all day here.
Yes, you was ready to
It was
squirt in
amazing.
there.
Yes. Sorry, I got too excited. You
No,
started
I love it.
speaking my
Exactly.
language.
Yes, exactly. So yes, all of that. Being out in nature, quality time with lovers and friends, sensual impact pack play. So again, I like a good spanking or a good flogging. Unapologetically black and proud spaces give me pleasure. And then like the coaching work I do supporting and encouraging black women. So that's like, not an exhaustive list, but a nice kind of list of categories of my life that are very pleasure centered.
I love that, and heavy on the black spaces because I'm finding more and more like, I mean, already I'm already very much so love being in full black spaces. But now it's just like that's just where I feel like home. And it could be any black space. I went to the Lil Wayne concert this last Friday, and that was a very diverse, different black space. But we had a time, people watching and just seeing everybody enjoy themselves. And yeah, shout out to Black Spaces.
Okay, so we're gonna shout out to the people watching again. Share your pleasure practices in the comments, or is there anything that we share that you're like, yeah, same, I'm here for it too, like Ebony did with the smoothie coffee cafe bookstore situation. Or if there's something we haven't named and you're like, how did y'all not name this? Throw it in the comments and holler at us on that. Okay, so do you want to get into like the symbols and the colors and go ahead.
No, I just said I was gonna add some of the things from my pleasure list. For
Oh
me,
yes, sorry.
drinking coffee in bed alone when I wake up before I start my day. A lot of I noticed like most of my pleasure things are in solitude. And I think that's just a reflection of like I'm a true introvert, and most of my pleasure comes in being alone. So drinking coffee in bed before starting my day, reading books in bed at night before ending my day, wearing luxurious loungewear just for me with no plans and no audience and no performance, listening to vinyl records. Like there's something about like that you have to like sit and stop and like be there to flip the record over to the other side, and you have to just be in tune with the music in a different way than just like constant streaming of the music. That brings me a lot of pleasure. Rubbing shea butter or jasmine oils into my skin. Let's see, long, luxurious baths. I did a lot of focus on like creativity and as an expression for pleasure of me, particularly as we are in this particular portal that's focused on the sacral chakra. So creative projects around my home, designing clothing that then I have my little African seamstress mail to me when I get to design my own clothing, playing with color on walls and outfits, designing vintage furniture to get reupholstered. So a lot of those things are like things that I do in solitude and related to creativity that bring me a lot of pleasure.
I love the clarity of this list, particularly when you prefaced all of this before, like, well, I'm not sure which box I'm gonna put it in. So where did the clarity come from this list in particular, or was that list a list that you were like, is this pleasure or is this something else?
So initially I was asking the question of like, what's the difference between like pleasure? And then I was like thinking through like some of those definitions of like, what is something that's like just escapism that like helps me kind of get out of what's going on in the world versus like what truly is pleasurable for me, like things that feed my soul and feed my spirit is kind of what I design, kind of labeled pleasure as. And then I just like walk through my life and things that I do that I like really enjoy that I feel like bring me pleasure. And it was helpful for me to kind of put them in those different domains and categories because that's just kind of how I think. And like, let's talk about, like what are everyday things that you do that bring pleasure? What are some of the creative things that you do that bring pleasure? What are some of the embodied touch things that you do? And it was helpful for me so that I can keep this list as I make my to-do list and make my plans to make sure that I'm carving out time every day for things that bring me pleasure. Similar to some of our earlier discussions around like how do we, schedule our work around the things that bring us fun and joy and pleasure instead of doing the opposite. So trying to identify those everyday things that aren't like the big things that you have to schedule in advance, but how can I think of something that like every day, no matter how busy my day is, how can I be able to like pick one of these things off the list to make sure that I'm inviting and prioritizing pleasure in my life.
Did you find yourself, well, I'm thinking about you in particular, but it's open to anybody. Again, because you had such a tangible list, did you find yourself surprised by like, oh, I actually had more pleasure in my life than I thought before when you thought about it?
It was both the surprise of more pleasure, but also the like, why don't I do this more often? Like now, so I think naming it as pleasure was helpful for me, and thinking of pleasure as a portal to being in a state of wholeness and health and well-being. So that as I name it as that thing, instead of just saying like, yeah, I like to drink coffee in bed in the morning, labeling it as like this is something that brings me pleasure and this is how it makes me feel really helps to invite me for like those days where I'm trying to like get up and rush and go to things. It's like, nope, stop. Because remember, drinking coffee in bed before you start your day brings you pleasure. So both the surprise of how many things it was, but then an invitation to remember to stop and take time to do those things every day because they're so important when you like anchor them in pleasure as opposed to just things I like to do.
Yeah, it's okay for them to be things you like to do too.
Mhm.
How about you, Ebony?
Yeah, I think for me, first gratitude is one of those things that's just really high on my like my value system. And so every day I'm always thinking about what good things, what goodness I have in my life, and what goodness in like the things that bring me joy and happiness and just activate me in different ways. And so I think when I was looking at like and kind of doing the reflection, I felt affirmed, and then I also just felt a lot of gratitude. But I don't think I was surprised because I think every day I'm writing down these things and I have the little thing in my phone that lets me do my little gratitude. And so I'm really aware of how much happiness and joy I have in my life, even when things are really stressful and I feel like I'm being pulled in lots of different directions. Like I just have a lot to be grateful for because I'm able to fold these things in on such a regular basis. So being more intentional, yes, I can always do that, but I definitely prioritize myself. We had an interesting conversation, me and my husband actually just recently because there was some tension, and when we finished unpacking it, he was like, "I just realized my tension was in that you always prioritize yourself." Like, and that is something that might make me like jealous or uneasy at times because there's no give there. You're usually putting yourself number one, and I think that helps with my pleasure too. Like there's a connection there between making sure that I prioritize myself in that.
But that goes back to one of the things you brought up in the beginning of women's pleasure being a threat to the patriarchy, right? Because we
Yes.
are so often socialized to prioritize as women to prioritize the pleasure of others, whether it's not even just the pleasure, but just to prioritize the needs of others, whether it's your children, your partner, your job, right? Community. And so for you to live a life that prioritizes your pleasure is a threat to capitalism. It's a threat to the patriarchy. It's a threat to all of these systems. And it's interesting that even within these communities and spaces and with partners and friends who want to tear down those systems, we're still so complicit in those systems and often get I don't want to say criminalized, but villainized a little bit for when we prioritize ourselves over.
Oh, 100%. Even with motherhood, there's this like, even when I'm like, I'm done, people are like, oh, you're joking. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not joking. Like, my kids are grown. And even if they're not fully grown, there is more than one parent and there's a village. And I need the village to step in because I have worked my ass off on behalf of my family. And it's time for me to hang it up. And they're like, but you don't really mean, no, bitch, I really mean I'm hanging this shit up. Like I want to be the fun mom. Give me Disney, give me the Disneyland mom title. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I want to do. And people are appalled by it because it knucks and bucks against patriarchal order. And so I'm finding it is what it is, especially around things, even other traditional norms, cooking. Listen, my kids have been shouting out "girl dinner." That's their joke lately, because I'm just, oh, sorry, my keyboard was talking to me. I must have been pressing against it. I finished the day and I'm coming down and it might be a thing of pretzels and a salad, and then a smoothie and that's it. And I don't, y'all can figure it out. Y'all want that too? Get in line and get a bowl and throw it in your bowl. But that's all it's gonna be. But that's been a shift because there was dinner on the table every day. and we wasn't eating out. And now I'm like, who's got it? Anybody? I know what I got. I don't know about you. So,
But what I'm also
Whew.
noticing as we're kind of going through this is one of our first sessions, Professor K was talking about one of the conference and thinking about pleasure goals. And I remember I was just like struggling with like, what is my pleasure goal going to be? And I know I got to do my homework. I got to check this box and I got to report back. So it's good to see the evolution of, being able to listen, identify like, yes, there's pleasure in my life and I have the opportunity to invite it into my life on a more regular basis.
that's so true.
Mhm. Remember, we were struggling.
Right.
I love the layers of what you share, Ebony. Like I love the where you started with gratitude as like a way of being attuned to your pleasure practices and what gives you pleasure and like celebrating that and just, being able to be aware of it. I love this prioritizing yourself and then this and that is so like it is revolutionary, it is necessary. I remember I used to do these focus on me tours where I would do these solo trips where it was like I didn't take any kids, I didn't take if I wanted to connect with a lover I'd be like I'm meeting a city, if I wanted to fool with somebody, and if I didn't I didn't. And I remember my therapist saying like I love this for you, like you have to have a focus on you on me tour because who else is going to tell you to focus on you? Like nobody, like everybody in your life is kind of extracting from you in some way, shape, or form, whether in the form of mothering or professoring or whatever the case may be. And it's just like if you don't focus on you, nobody's going to tell you to focus on you. And so, but then when you do focus on you, again, because there's an expectation that you constantly pour out from an empty cup or prioritize everybody else. And it's just like, what you're doing, focusing on you and prioritizing yourself, but nobody else is going to make you their priority if you don't make yourself a priority. And because of just the Black women ethic that we have, even when we're prioritizing ourselves, it doesn't mean we're not also already additionally doing all of these other things, right? So yeah, lots of layers there. So thank you so much for sharing that. So again, people who are watching, let it holler at us, let us know, do you have a gratitude practice? Do you have a pleasure practice? Are any of these stories that were shared resonate with you that you're like, I've had similar experiences? And I also like this, like the pushback that we get from the people around us, again, or from society, like whether it's family of origin or society, where you're just like, I don't want to do this thing anymore. And you're clear you don't want to do the thing. And they're trying to convince you that you actually want to do the thing that you're very clear that you don't want to do. And it's just like, no, I said what I said. Like, stop violating my boundary or trying to like suck me back into something. So many layers. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah, so many layers. I'm also thinking about so many people who have made a decision, at least in my circles, who have made a decision like they don't want children and they're absolutely fine, moving through adulthood. And I'm like, absolutely, that is amazing that you've made that decision. And how much pressure they're getting from other people around that not being what they should be doing and constantly being asked to change their decision is wild to me. So what was it? The sacred no and
Yes,
saying
the sacred
yes,
yes and the
the
sacred
sacred
no.
yes and the sacred no, and making
Mhm.
sure that we honor that with other people is so important. Just truly
Yeah,
listening
the
to
thing
them.
around kids is real. And so the universe made a choice for me that was different than the choice that I wanted for myself. But I really
Yeah.
place where I'm happy. It's not just like, okay, I've resigned that this isn't going to happen. It's like, woo, thank God that this isn't going to happen. And just like appreciating the other things that I can birth and that I can mother and the freedom that I have because I'm not tied down to children. But it's still like sometimes people do ask, and I'm like, no, I can't have kids and I don't want any kids. And they're like, oh, no, no, but you can still. And it's like, but no, like, I don't want to do those things. And they're like,
Right.
but you like, you will be such an amazing parent and you should adopt and you should do this. And it's like, nope, I'm good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the way that society like polices our uterus and polices our, us like our the need for us to be mothers is kind of wild. And so I love it when we have examples of people who are like, nope, I'm not a mother and I'm happily not a mother. And
Yeah.
the joy that I have in my life. I actually had a trainee who told me she was a medical student and she's like, well, I thought about being a pediatrician. I love taking care of kids and I want to be a pediatrician, but I don't want to be a mother. And I feel like I can't be a pediatrician. Girl, what? But those are the messages that like society sends you. And so I was like,
Right.
listen, I am not a mother and I'm not going to be a mother. And I'm one of the best pediatricians you're ever going to work with. And let me tell you why you don't have to be a mother in order to be able to be a pediatrician. And so it like just like opened up a whole nother world for her. But the fact that people are making their like in revolving their entire lives around motherhood is the way we've been conditioned to do. And so like smash the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, folks out here with whole penises deciding they can specialize in vaginas. So in terms of like the whole
Girl,
gynecology
girl.
enterprise, so it's like, oh, this is not my anatomy, so I can't specialize in it. But so anyway, again, just how we are internalizing this different kind of messaging. I feel like there has been a shift, but this also might just be the people in my world in terms of like the kind of cool auntie, rich auntie celebrating the aunties who are choosing, who were choicefully child free and getting out of the language of childless and using the language of child free, which has much more agency and kind of
Mm-hmm.
intention behind it. So I appreciate that. And I'm aware that there is still this kind of pressure on, like, even the example that you just gave, Tiff, of this, like, I can't have children and I don't want to, and people trying to convince you otherwise, of like all of these hoops you should jump through in order to force that on you. So I think that, but so I think there's a little bit of a trend out of that, but I think there is still something that's like, pernicious and persistent that that needs to be worked through and gotten over. I recently saw a thing that there was a study. I'm not somebody who's that invested in studies. I'm like, I feel this intuitively in my spirit. I don't need the numbers to back it up. Although I don't necessarily think that's the way to do everything, but there was a thing that was basically saying like some of the healthiest, happiest people are women who are unmarried and child free. And so there was a doctor who was saying I can correlate this to my patient population. Like my patients who are married with children have all of the issues, and my patients who are unmarried and child free are living much happier, healthier lives. So like it's a thing. So I think, but again, I think it also comes down to like, what do you really want and figuring out what you really want. And I think sometimes it can be hard to parse out what you want versus what you've been socialized and told you should want and that you need and all of that kind of stuff. And so there's a level of like self-awareness that's required in that. But and this is also why I try to share all of my, like, again, I'm a mother times four, but I really try to be honest with like, it's work, it's hard, it's all like I'm having all kinds of existential crises and awakenings around motherhood, having decided to have four children and bring them into the world. And I try to be honest about that. So I'm not out here like, mothering is my most important job. I found my sense of purpose when I had children. Like, that's just not true for me, right? Like, it's one of the things that I do, but it's not the most important thing that I do. It's not the most important thing that I've done. And I've always felt like I had a sense of purpose and something to do in the world that was never tied exclusively or even primarily to mothering. And so I think it's important to name that, because I think so many times and I think it's the same with marriage. I think people like feel like we kind of do the false advertising around the brochure, because it's like you get in there and you're like, oh, actually, this is some BS, but now I'm in it. So I need to like put up a face to make it seem like it's okay. And it's like, this is some BS, right? So I try to be more honest about that in the phase I'm in now, for people to give people permission to also, share whatever their truths are, or for people who are deciding to not think you're missing out on some greener grass on the other side and everything will magically be better if you get married and have kids. Because listen, you winning if you've done neither at this point. Congratulations, Dr.
And the
Beers.
award goes to.
The gold star in this group, because me and you are both like multiples.
Yes, times four, both times four.
Mhm.
But I think for me, the thing that I'm still working through, and this is again, we talked about Jacob the Face Reader and how he clocked my T, right? Is that like the universe wanted for me in this realm to be choicefully child free in order to like live my best life. And I'm still taking, even though I don't have a husband and I don't have children, I'm still taking on some of those constraints of like nurturing the goals of others and nurturing the dreams of others, and like
Yes.
working myself in ways that are not aligned with the life that I'm supposed to be living. And so there's still like a lot of unlearning and learning that I need to do around how do I take advantage of this beautiful life that I've been given and to get the most joy and pleasure out of it. And that is the way that I'm going to have the greatest impact, not by like grinding myself to exhaustion all the time.
So true.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love the you to be like, so true, so true. Yes. It's like that round table, the women
Mhm.
round table be like, mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yes to all of that. Okay, so let's get into some of the symbols related to Tanit is the Hamsa, which is like the hand, and sometimes it also has like the evil eye on it. Let's see, this the triangular woman figure with arms open in prayer to the moon above her. Symbols also include triangles, palm trees, and doves. Also, there are coins associated with her, and sometimes she's depicted with wings or a lion's head. Colors include purple and midnight blue. I love the midnight blue, especially with the moon energy and the moon dance party that I was thinking about. More auspicious times are night times and full moon. Music, Goddess Code by Lizzie Jeff and Pink by Janelle Monáe. Suggested offerings include fish, grapes, and pomegranates. And then also offers several alternate names. What did you guys think about this? They talk about the traditional pleasure ritual, but the erotic binding spells, the example of these binding spells where people would write spells for lovers and things like that. Um, I'll have to say, like, they gave this one example of one of the incantations. Like, it's like you're trying to conjure, this love with this other person. And I wasn't feeling this, I
I
have to
wasn't
say.
either. You were looking down, so you didn't see my head.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, no, no, thank you. I
Yeah,
don't
I
need you.
literally put like
Lack
shaking my
of
head. I don't
respect
agree with this.
associated,
Yeah.
right? It's like I don't want to be with somebody who does not
If I gotta use a spell,
want to be with me. And if I gotta cast a spell on you for you to want to be with me, then it ain't it, right?
Mhm.
yeah, it was a no. It
It
was a
was
no for
given
me.
Tituba going after the dude who ultimately got her enslaved, asking
Or
Mama Yaya
right.
to cast a spell. I was like, this is a no.
Yeah.
But also, like, literally, one of the lines is give him anxiety at midday, evening, and all times. Like, and I'm just like, no, we don't need to be doing it. So I didn't agree with this.
Yeah.
I didn't agree
Um,
with it, but on my playlist that came up when I was riding, a Maxwell song came up that like wasn't a song that I listened to a lot growing up, but it was a song,
mhm.
I forget what it's called, but it was basically about a woman putting a spell on him, and she was able to do it because he left his mojo bag in his favorite suit. And I was like, not all the
That's
goddess
hilarious.
coming out in this D'Angelo song. But yeah, I'm not here for putting spell. I feel like when we walk in a room, we cast spells, right?
That's
So
right.
Mhm.
do all these things to get somebody, then they probably don't deserve you, right? If you gotta put a hex on.
And won't know what to do with you when
Mm-mm.
when you
So
do
that's
that.
mine. But thank you for bringing that up because that's something that again I didn't even take notes on that because I was like, this doesn't align with me. That's
Mm-mm.
another
Same.
reminder for our listeners that there are going to be things that resonate with us that don't resonate with you, and things that don't resonate with us that do resonate with you. So if you want to put a hex on a man, far be it for me to tell you not to, but that is not something that aligns with the energy I'm trying to put out into the world or receive from the world.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, and then there's more just discussion of the just your pleasure rituals, sacred erotic magic. So again, more sacred sexuality, self pleasure in order to manifest desires. What I loved about the self pleasure and solo sex magic is that, I mean, because of course she talks about pleasure with a partner as well, but I love this idea that again we have the magic within ourselves, so you can engage in your own sex magic practices
Mhm.
in order to create and conjure things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with a partner, although you can do it with a partner. So I appreciated that too. Okay, so anything else that I did? Oh, and also because I love alliteration, I love the masturbation manifestation phrase. I like that one as well. Um, okay, so and this was recommended around a new moon phase, like when you're kind of manifesting something, the new moon is better for that. When you're kind of releasing and shedding things, the full moon is better for that. But is there anything that I did not get to? Oh, one more thing I will say, like there were questions like we talked about the pleasure practices and principles. There were other questions around like what you want to manifest and why that I thought were good prompts, as well as how do you want to feel. So I also appreciated the like again connecting to your feelings or again those emotional epistemologies in terms of letting that guide you in terms of what you want. So I like the emphasis on feelings. But is there anything I didn't mention that you guys wanted to make sure we talked about before we switch gears?
I just want to say that even though the idea of casting a spell to get a partner didn't resonate with me, the idea of reclaiming the magic of sex did resonate.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I gotta figure out how to work on and how.
Hmm.
sex is magic. And like, what's the point in being a witch if you're not practicing sex magic? It's just like a waste.
I agree. Okay, anybody else or anything else? Okay, well, I'm going to go through what we used to do at the beginning, but that we're kind of shifting. We're going to put it today in that transition point. Just our description. So this is the Goddess Glow Red Look Alchemy, where brilliance meets boldness and creativity ignites transformation, embracing wholeness in our communities. We're about to switch gears to pulling cards, but we just want to remind you that Goddess Glow the Red Look Alchemy Chronicles is a sacred space where Black femmes as African descendant creatives come together to connect, converse, and radiate brilliance as we have been doing throughout this session. We honor the divine power within us, weaving African diasporic practices, indigenous traditions, ancestral veneration, and restorative rituals into a tapestry of personal and communal alchemy through bold storytelling, spiritual exploration, and collective wisdom. We celebrate the red lip as a symbol of rebellion, beauty, and sacred sisterhood. So thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate our power, honor our ancestors, and glow unapologetically. Black heart, stars, red lip. Okay, let's pull some cards.
Okay, y'all. If y'all have been watching, you know Aunt Nancy has had me in the chokehold for 3 weeks straight. And I
You
pulled her in February.
and you pulled her last week, even when we hadn't met, even when we weren't recording.
By yourself,
yes,
solo.
Different card decks too, right? Like I have two
Oh,
sets.
that's right. When we just
that's
had our
right.
check-in.
When you were in Hawaii.
So I'm just trying to see. I've been doing some like, work with betrayal and how I've been betraying myself. And I'm just hoping and praying that Nancy is done with me. But if she's not, we'll see. Look, when I just went to go shuffle, look, I'm gonna keep shuffling.
He's like, you called. I heard somebody
Right.
invoke my name.
Who that say my name?
Are you pulling just for yourself? Who's doing a community card? I guess just what I should ask.
No, you didn't.
You literally just still pulled it?
I cannot even stand it. I could do a community and my own.
Tiff, you legit, after you shuffled it and put it back, you
Did
still
you
pulled
really?
it.
I can't.
Wow. Wow.
I
need to check the edges. We also need to go through your deck and make sure there's not 5 Aunt Nancy's in there.
think my deck is made up of only Aunt Nancy.
You have an Aunt Nancy deck.
Right.
Listen, you might have to pull out Aunt Nancy out and just be like, okay, I'm gonna sit with you so that you can
Yeah.
build some other stuff around her. Because
I'm just gonna pull
it's
it
like we acknowledge you, Aunt Nancy. We're
Yeah,
gonna work on the self-betrayal and
Yes.
like let's see what other
We're gonna
goddesses we can call on to support.
permanent fixture on my altar.
Right. I kept Medusa Rage. I pulled her twice, and then after twice, I said, you know what? I'm gonna leave you up here because it's a good reminder, and I put her right there so I can see her. So that's probably a good idea. Aunt Nancy wants to be seen. Leave her out. That's the message. Leave me out. Remember me.
Remember not to betray yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is like you need a daily reminder of stay out. See, and I'm gonna see what else is coming up too. Okay, so who's pulling the community card? Professor K, is the plan?
Ebony says she's gonna pull a community card. But I did pull a card if y'all are ready for me. I love the way we all agree without saying it that we're not going to reread Aunt Nancy. We're going to tell the audience to just go back. Basically, Aunt Nancy, a lot of it is about betrayal and self-betrayal. And so like one of the core questions is, did somebody betray you or did you betray yourself? So yeah. So Aunt Nancy's been talking. We're talking to all of us because if Tiff pulls it, we can all relate to it. But Tiff's been the one to be pulling it. So Dr. Diva was Aunt Nancy. Okay. You said you're gonna pull another one?
Pull another one. Oh, good.
I'll stay on the altar and I'll pull another one for this week too for myself.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Professor K.
Okay, I pulled Katesh, which is sacred lust. Yes, here for it.
What number is that?
Listen, it's number 26, and I'm here for these hips and thighs.
All the
Exactly.
hips and thighs.
All the
Yes.
hips and all the thighs, and look at the people there at her service.
Yes.
Like,
Hmm.
got the poly vibes going. I'm here for it.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me read this one. I'm sure we've pulled this one before too. Okay, so this
I
is
don't know. I don't remember this.
you don't remember this one? Or
No.
maybe I've pulled it solo before when we weren't all together. Okay, so this is Katesh, the goddess of sacred lust, from Egypt. The temple is lovers. The element is fire. Katesh is the mistress of the gods. She's the Egyptian goddess of sacred sexuality, ecstasy, and fertility. Her two men, yes, exclamation point in the book, are the fertility god Men and Mantu, the war of God, the god of war. Kadesh's guidance. You are an erotic creature. You have a divine right to experience sensual ecstasy. It is sacred to give and receive pleasure. Embodiment. You deserve to feel good. It feels good to feel good. So allow yourself to feel good. Lean into your sacred lust. Turn up your own fire and quench your thirst. I love this because this is also like a solo sex kind of reference as well. Plus, we also still had our two guys before.
I do
Dance
remember
with,
that it feels good to feel good. So
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Dance with pleasure. You daring to embrace your sensuality will set the world on fire. Goddess declaration. It feels good to feel good. So yes, yeah. So this was great. This plays well, I think, with Tanit, the goddess of pleasure. But yeah, I'm here for the sacred lust and the sacred sexuality and erotic pleasure and sensual ecstasy. So yes, I love it. I love it. And she's also standing on top of a lion too. So there's a kind of fierceness and
Mhm.
power in that as well.
Love it.
Did you pull another one? You want to do
And
yours?
my
Or
other part is 36 Queen of Sheba, which is Secrets Revealed. Here's our Queen of Sheba. Secrets Revealed. So this is the goddess of Secrets Revealed from Ethiopia in the Temple of the Queens. Her element is fire. In the Bible, the wealthy Queen of Sheba brings a caravan of gifts to King Solomon. The Ethiopian holy book revealed that she was their Queen Makeda, and that together they sired King Menelik the First. Queen of Sheba's guidance. Open your eyes. Secrets are being revealed. It is safe for you to see the truth. Your inner vision is crystal clear. Embodiment. You don't know what you don't know. Your creator, ancestors, angels, spirits, and ascended masters are whispering to you. This is divine intelligence. Pay close attention. There are things you do not let yourself see. Allow yourself to be guided and choose your own path. The goddess declaration is I am connected to the divine. So I love this. I love the call to choose your own path because I have been on a journey of trying to figure out like what this path for the next phase of my life is going to be. I don't know what the Temple of the Queens is, but this feels like your intuition, third eye, chakra type stuff. And so just tapping into that intuition, that inner knowing that both I know, but also my ancestors, the spirits, and the gods are all whispering. And so we'll call to listen and not try to turn off and turn down those messages when they come up. Yet last night, OG Catherine Bell turned the hallway light on again. She hadn't done that in a little while. So I'm wondering messages she's trying to whisper to me that I need to pay attention to and listen to.
I really love this too as like a support for the Aunt Nancy one in terms of the betrayal, right? Like help me see how I'm maybe betraying myself or help me see
Mm.
who may be trying to manipulate me. So like this feels like a good support for the other card.
I'm put them next to each other.
Mhm. Nancy's homie.
Talk, y'all need
Mhm.
to talk, okay? Queen and she
Mhm.
have a
Y'all. That's right. I got another repeat. I got 33, if you can see. That is Mama Kumba Bang, and it's the goddess of speaking up. This is the Temple of Griot's element is water. Mame Kumba Bang protects the mouth of the Senegal River. When making an offering to her, you must not speak to anyone else coming or going. Sing for her, chant for her, call to her, give Goddess Kumba your voice, and she'll be happy. So the guidance is to speak up, speak out, speak on it. You have a right to be heard. So we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, just in regards to just what all is going on, and really just making sure our voices are heard. You betraying yourself by not speaking up. Your words have power on your voice. As the old saying goes, stand up for something or fall for anything. Being neutral is not an option. When you stand firmly in your truth, you have thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and convictions. What do you stand for? Tell someone today. And the declaration is I reclaim my voice. I speak out and speak up. So,
How does that resonate with you in terms of things you think you need to be speaking out against or for these days?
well, I think I am. So I think maybe it's just a continued reminder. I've had some personal family turmoil, just trying to get my godmother into care and my mother well cared for. And so I've had to really like own, like, God, this is the final. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening next. I hear you, and this is happening, and so I've had to continue that even when I thought I had some reprieve this weekend. I had to double down again yesterday. So I think it's just probably a good reminder that I think I'm on the right track. I hope that it's affirmation that I'm on the right track, because it's telling me to do it. So I'm gonna take that as that's the wisdom that I'm hearing. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to stand firmly in your truth, and like the example that you just gave in terms of family care stuff, but also the previous example of you being like, yeah, I'm done with this. And people are like, no, you're not done. It's like, no,
Mhm.
like I said what I said, I'm done.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, the next one, our community card is Jumbi Mask, and that's 18.
Definitely
Yeah.
call that word too.
Yeah. And this is Shadow of Mask from the Caribbean. The temple is shadows and the element is air. Jumbis are the scary, shadowy, otherworldly spirits and monsters of the Caribbean. Where is the lie? Get quiet to get clear. Put your hand on your heart. Now, are you confused or are you afraid? Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And so the embodiment is show your true face. Wearing a mask blocks your vulnerability and blessings. If you are wearing a mask, dare to reveal yourself. You are lying to others and to yourself. Wearing a mask is exhausting. Be you. If someone else is wearing a mask with you, you deserve clarity. Your relationship and connection is built on lies. Their mask is a projection of your own. The goddess declaration is I am willing to remove the mask. I think that's always a good one for community, just in the different masks I think we all sometimes wear to get through day to day. And a reminder to pull the mask off and show up in your full selves.
I think that reminder is needed so much more now during these times, right?
Mm-hmm.
It ain't safe. It ain't never been safe. Keeping a mask on ain't keeping you safe, right? So just
Right.
keep the mask off and be who you are and show up as your authentic self, because some of these respectability politics of how we need to show up in these spaces don't protect us. So we might as well
No.
be who we are.
Yeah. So true.
I
Well,
like the pairing of like the get quiet and get clear with Tiff's card as well, of like listening to what our ancestors and spirit guides are teaching us.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm looking at them like lined up, right? And it's like betrayal and secrets being revealed and taking the mask off lined up together. And it's like, woof, it's a message. And ended in sacred lust.
Bringing
Take
up
the
the rear,
mask
bringing up
off,
the rear.
and in the week over the weekend, get your lust on. Sacredly.
Sacred.
Yes, I love it. Okay, any final thoughts or reflections other than if you're watching it and made it this far, make sure you subscribe and like and comment and share so that you can continue to get this and get notifications about it and spread the love to other people for whom in your life for whom this may resonate. So thanks for making it this far, and we appreciate y'all, and we enjoy doing this. So I always enjoy the conversation real time, but then when I'm going back to like re-listen to it and post it, I'm like, that was a really good conversation. I'm so glad that we're doing this. So thanks for I love this collaboration, and shout out to Dr. Diva for getting it started.
And such a beautiful and sacred space, and I really enjoy just because I'm a box checker, like ebb flow, the box of just prioritizing myself and my spirituality, and going through all of these practices every week has really helped to, help me to dig into some layers. And so it's been really beautiful, and I'm glad to have the support and to be able to learn from you all as we learn from each other and share our lessons with the world. So it's been really good.
Mhm.
I realize I'm less of a bot. Like I definitely, there was a time when I was a box checker. That like that's not that long ago. It's not like for the last 5 years I've not been a box checker. But I think there is something in like me quitting my job and my lady of leisure time, and then like being intentional about easing back in. It's like what worked for me before my lady of leisure period doesn't like apply now. So, there are definitely things I want to get done. But now, even with like I do like monthly planning and weekly planning and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm in a place now where I'm doing more like when I'm journaling in the morning, like, okay, what's on my mind, what's coming up for me, and what feels good to do today? Because any deadlines at this point are more artificial and self-imposed. So I get the box checking because that is how I was able to do the things that I did as like a mother and still married and a professor and on the tenure track and all of that kind of stuff. But now I'm like, yeah, I don't need to do all of
I love
It's,
that for you.
it's so deeply satisfying for me to
that.
check box, for me to check something.
It's both very satisfying, but also like there have been times where I've tried to incorporate a practice of pulling cards where I didn't stay consistent with it. Like I would do it for a few weeks or even a couple months and then like fall off. And this has been helpful for consistently doing it and not just with y'all
Yeah,
self as well.
same.
So it helps to reinforce the good habits in a way that I wasn't able to. It helps me to prioritize myself and my needs in ways that I didn't before.
Hmm.
Mhm,
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
mhm.
All right, y'all.
Okay, y'all. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for everybody who made it to the end. And for the people who do subscribe and do like and post comments and everything, we appreciate it. It's nice to be in conversation with y'all and with each other. And we'll see you next time.
Mhm. Bye.
Bye.